Yeah,
So let's go ahead and talk about that. So Tim Dog wasn't officially a member of Ultramagnetic, but he kind of was like an affiliated member.
yeah, Tim was staying with me and my family. His mother had put him out, then his cousin put him out. So he was staying with us, and I was working on songs with Tim. So I took his tape to Sony Records, where Kurt Woodley was the A&R. Kurt Juice, he came from Uptown Records too. So he was like, "Oh no, I skipped." Before I took the tape there, we had put Tim on the chorus line, and that's an interesting story because Keith had a friend who was rapping, and he wanted to be on chorus line, and Tim wanted to be on chorus line. So we said, y'all got to battle for the spot. Me and Keith took ourselves out as judge, so it wouldn't be any favoritism, and Paul C became the judge. So Tim started out with it was really over after that. But Tim won the spot. So Tim's on chorus line. Chorus line is huge on the streets. So I go into Sony with Tim's demo. And Kurt Juice goes, "Yo, Tim is dope. Tim is dope. But I'm going to tell you how we going to get a deal. He said, "You're going to take Tim, put him on a beat similar to chorus line, and have them diss the motherfuckers from the West Coast." And he put together the demo deal budget for us. We went in, knocked it out, and that's how that all came into fruition.
Right. And on that song, he disses Eazy-E, Ice Cube, NWA. He talks about Dr. Dre beating up, D from Pump It Up. He talks about Jerry Curls.
He even dissed Michelle A.
Michelle A. Yeah, everyone ended up getting it in that song.
Yeah.
And then there was a bunch of response records to that song, the most famous of which was Dre Day.
Yeah, that's when they brought in Snoop, because they didn't want no parts of Tim, and that's why this has been suppressed. You gotta understand, and I understand it, because they want to maintain that image that they were this rough group from the street when they had a major, not a little, that was like that was the equivalent of Nas putting out Ether and Jay not saying nothing. But they want to act like it wasn't Ether. This record was #1. Go back and check Billboard 2 months. But everybody want to act like it didn't happen. Tell me what that's about. Mr. Vlad.
Well, I mean, along with Dre and Snoop, Compton's Most Wanted responded to it on Who's Fucking Who. DJ Quick responded on it on Way Too Funky. Rodney O and Joe Cooley. On You Don't Hear Me Though, and they had an album called Fuck New York.
That's what I'm saying. But
yeah,
NWA,
so there's a lot of responses.
NWA had no response until Snoop came back on Dre Day.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I'm saying. There was a lot of response. It was a record that had much impact on the charts as well as the streets. But they want to act like it didn't happen. With all that evidence, like you said, with all those response records, they want to act like it never happened and that this was some kind of small-time guy,
Yeah, well, I remember I talked to Kool Keith about this when I interviewed him some years back, and we talked about that whole record. And I guess eventually Tim Dog ended up moving to L.A. and lived there for a bunch of years.
Yeah, but Tim, Tim was, that's my brother, but Tim was Tim. He probably was in L.A. as a doctor. Tim had a lot of con game, Probably was disguised up with a stethoscope. That's Dr. Blair,
Oh yeah, no, I mean there was a whole story about him conning a woman out of $32,000 and
it was a bunch of people. It's a bunch of people.
A bunch of stuff, and eventually it was reported that he had died around 2013. But although people weren't even sure about that.
Well, put it like this. Like I said, Tim was a very smart man. So when he first put out this rumor that he was passed. It was supposed to have been in a hospital in Atlanta. So me, Red Alert, and another friend of mine, we get on the phone, we call the hospital in Atlanta. And not only there was no records of a Timothy Blair dying on Valentine's Day down there, nobody died in a hospital in Atlanta on that day. So they want me and Keith, his family, I shouldn't say his family, certain members of his family wanted me and Keith to speak at the ceremony. And I was going to do it. But then a very interesting thing came out, Vlad. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, came this Tim Dog fund for his daughter on PayPal. Not a fund like Jam Master Jay's daughter fund, a real fund where you can go into a bank, or not a like Heavy D's fund, PayPal. Me and you can set up a PayPal and say, hey, this is for Rich Nice. You understand? It's for Rich Nice community, So I said, wait a minute, this is starting to smell like another Tim scheme. So I asked the family member to take a picture of the death certificate. Never did it. Never got back to me. Then they claimed they cremated him. So I said, oh, well, then you must have the death certificate. Nobody can just walk a body in and cremate it. They want to see that you didn't murder this person. No response. But then a year later, he revised his lie and he came up with, he died in a hospital, which is not a hospital. And the wife claimed bankruptcy, so the state cremated him. And when the state cremates you, they don't give you a death certificate because then you can claim insurance. My thing is, Vlad, if that's the case, me and Keith saying we're having a problem doing this show, it's a death certificate, wouldn't you just say that from the beginning? Why a year later? That's cool. He had to figure out a new angle. But it got him out of debt. So kudos to my boy Tim Dog,
So he basically faked his death, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's facts. There's no death certificate. There's no obituary. There's nothing other than a report that came out almost a year later that it was a hospital instead of a hospital.
Okay, but Tim Dog really has died, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you telling me there's a possibility that Tim Dog is still alive somewhere?
Dr. Blair is probably doing operations somewhere. With a stethoscope.
Wow. Now, I mean, would you say that the Fuck Compton record started the East Coast, West Coast beef?
Yeah. That's when the East Coast, West Coast. Because what happened was, like I said, Tim, my brother, I love him, but Tim was kind of crazy. So Tim would, when that record came out and it was number one for two months, he got crazy. So the label wanted him to do a follow-up disc record, and he kind of wanted to do his own thing. So the label moved off of him. And then, like I said, this came from somewhere else, the whole purpose for this battle. Who, whatever, but then they moved Tim out of the picture and they replaced him with a rapper who looked and had a deep voice like him named Notorious B.I.G. And he came in and picked up the mantle from where Tim left off. So let's just say this, Vlad. I've been uniquely blessed to work with three of the most dynamic personalities probably in the industry, between KRS, Kool Keith, and Tim. Mr. KRS, my talented, great MC brother who's arguably might be the best MC ever. There's an argument for that. But Chris is sensational. He loves sensationalism. That's KRS thing. Every time you hear him, he has a different story, We know how eccentric Kool Keith is. He has 10 billion names. And then Dr. Blair was the schemer of all of them. So it was very interesting, to be able to work with people like that and see the uniqueness of them and their different talents, you know. So
Well, Ultramagnetic continued to drop albums. After Critical Beatdown, Funk Your Head Up came out in 92. Four Horsemen came out in 93. And then there was kind of a lull for a while until 2007 when The Best Kept Secret came out. And then during that time, Kool Keith went out on his own. And I think, did you produce Poppa Large?
oh yeah.
Hell of a record.
The thing about Poppa Large is the original never made it to light. The original, like me and Keith had a flavor. He would find the record and bring it over to me to hook up. So Keith brought Prince's Batdance to the lab. You remember Batdance? Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I had the tape to play for you. That record was probably bigger than all of the different versions of Poppa Large. But this is what happened, Vlad. We went to Prince for the sample clearance. And Prince didn't say he wanted half of the song, 3/4 of the song. He said he wanted everything. He wanted everything. So we wound up going the other route. We brought in the Beat Misers and they did the remix and it was dope, Yeah. Cause I didn't want to touch it.
Keith.
I didn't want to touch it after that, after I hooked up Batdance. And this what killed me, bless Prince. But the thing was, like I said, I chopped it up and it was kind of a different arrangement. It wasn't 100% Prince anymore, but he still wanted 100% of the song. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's Prince for you.
Yeah, the unique.
He basically could do what he wanted.
Another unique personality.
Yeah. And Kool Keith, he went on to have a great career as a solo artist. The whole Dr. Octagon thing, became a cult classic with Dan the Automator. Sex Styles sort of became a cult classic on its own as well.
That's Ice-T's favorite.
Very, very interesting dude. And I remember when I interviewed him, I was talking about how certain people thought he was crazy. And he felt that everyone else was crazy. He's not crazy. I mean, do you think that Kool Keith was crazy?
He's unique. He's uniquely gifted. Keith is Keith. Like I said, I met Keith in high school. Like, in Clinton, the athletes had how schools are, the cliques. So the athletes, we had a table where we sat at lunchtime and nobody was allowed to sit in there but us. Somehow Keith was in that circle and we would start snapping. And once you was at the table, everybody was fair game. So that's how I met Keith, from snapping and stuff. And then we just stayed friends. Then when he found out that my brother had the little 4-track setup and Scott was there, he started coming over and we just, after I came back from college,
Well, then in 2009, you actually produced a Bill Cosby album.
Yeah.
What's the story with that? That's kind of out of nowhere when I'm looking through it.
Well, that's interesting because I don't know why he did that album. He told us that it was to, get some positive message out, but he did everything to make sure it didn't get out there. So it was just confusing to me. Like I put him in contact with everybody who was a mover and shaker in the industry. And I say, Bill, I would say, this guy did this, give him the whole resume, documented proof. And he'll go ahead and he'll hire somebody who was a college intern with no experience, and I'm like, who is this guy? So it was just confusing. He said he did it to help the gangbangers and everybody else, but then he did everything in his power. Cause know this, he turned down a deal from, I I can't remember the record label. Universal. The president of Universal was so impressed with the album, he wanted to sign it directly to his label, and he had guaranteed, it was in writing, he had guaranteed 500,000 units shipped. So it was going to be gold on day one. The man turned down the deal and signed with the Carol Lewis booking agency. He signed the album to a booking agency who handles artist shows. So am I wrong from assuming that there was an alternative motive with putting this album out? You had a record label, major distribution, saying we're going to do 500,000 units. Carol Lewis booking agency, who had no distribution, no way to handle an album, and you chose Carol Lewis because he claimed they was giving him 2 more cents on the CD. He was like, y'all don't know how much of a big difference that's going to make. I'm like, but if they can't put the CD in the store, what good is 2 more cents or $5 if they can't get it in the store? So what was the purpose?